So I have been in Dubai and in real estate for 9 months, and you have been here for a little bit longer than that. So I am probably going to ask you some questions today that are probably key to my survival, never mind anything else. But welcome, Clementine, to Unscripted.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited to have this conversation with you. And I don't want this podcast to be a broker podcast. That is first and foremost my goal, because I want conversations with lots of different people. But my goal was definitely to have really good brokers when I did get them on. And I wanted a really good female broker. So you were my first pick. And I am so excited to get into a conversation with you. But why don't you tell me and my audience a little bit about you and some of your journey here?
So, well, I'm honoured, first of all, thank you. I moved out to Dubai when I was 22 with just one suitcase on an internship. So an internship with Knight Frank, which is the largest privately owned residential business in the world. And I lived in a maid's room. Well, I actually started there's a tower on Sheikh Zayed Road, one of the kind of iconic towers. And my boyfriend at the time, his dad had a business out here and he had a couple of rooms set aside for some of his employees. Okay. So without his knowledge, I squirreled in there and stayed in the maid's room to save a bit of money, and I would metro to my first job. Okay. And now 13 years later, 8 homes later, 3 kids, 2 dogs, 1 husband later, I'm still here.
A whole life. Yeah. Most important question, was there a window in that maid's room?
No. No window and no AC.
Whew. I mean, yeah. I just, like, it's the running joke, is it?
Yeah. Did you or did you not have it? No, yeah. I did 2 maid's rooms back to back and neither had a window.
Yeah. Look, but the want and desire to be here, you make sacrifices. Mm-hmm. You've built an entire life here, which I admire, and I can't wait to dive into all of that with you. But what has kept you in the game here through it all?
I think you have to love it. And I often say, because I've worn a couple of different hats whilst always in Dubai real estate and kind of in my management hat when people weren't performing, and mostly how we measure performance in this industry is just financial. If you're not doing the numbers, I'd always be like, there's so many easier jobs to do to earn the level of money that you're earning by not performing here. You have to really love real estate. And I think you have to love Dubai real estate, which is its own ecosystem, its own kind of real estate, not really translatable to any other real estate markets in the world. You have to love it, or else I don't think you can do it. And I'm one of those people who it just works for. I do love it.
I think, well, I didn't want to be in it, right? So I don't know whether you know my story, but I thought being in real estate was disgusting and didn't want to do it, but took an interview because I want to practice. And I wanted to come to Dubai. So it was like, right, let's just have an interview. And whatever magic was weaved, whatever spell was put on me on that call, I knew I need to go and do this. And I am so glad that I have, because I now know I was actually meant to do it. Mm-hmm. Because for me, real estate is, yes, it's properties, but it's people.
Really, it's people. And I think part of what you just said, you started 9 months ago. Mm-hmm. I think what real estate is today is very different to what it was when I started, and now it has its own persona of what is a real estate broker, and particularly what does a Dubai real estate agent look like. Mm. And that is something that maybe, if you're not yet in country, looks quite undesirable from the outside, particularly if you consider yourself a normal person. But when I started, it didn't really have the kind of brand that it is now. I mean, we were estate agents very much. We weren't realtors, real estate entrepreneur. We were estate agents. And I think that is what I love about it, but it's definitely something that's become warped over time.
So warped, was it better before, do you think? What's changed?
In some ways it wasn't better, because it was like playing for a Division 3 team and now we're all in the Premier League. So in one way it's better. The offices are so beautiful. The technology is incredible. The homes are beautiful. It's a much more broad clientele. But the actual it was a lot friendlier. There was 5,000 of us. There was a lot less competition.
Compared to
And
20,000 now.
yeah, I mean, I think there's 28,000 registered, but we know how many unregistered brokers there are just by nature of doing the role. So I'd say upwards of 30,000 brokers compared to the 5 when I started. And we were very much area specialists. You were an estate agent for a patch, and there was a lot of respect with other brokers within that space. Now everyone tends to be mouthpieces for the entire industry, and it's now a very online role. It used to be classified newspapers. We did a lot of advertising there still. We would wear a headset. We did have mobile phones, but you called from a landline of big reams of printed data. And the customer who heard from you wasn't so frustrated because they hadn't had a call that week, or they hadn't had a call that month.
Or they haven't had 10 calls a day.
And now it's this and I think it is important to have a personal brand. It's what you and I are doing here today, is hopefully giving people a window into who you are. But I think now there are it does feel like there's 30,000 real estate agents online talking with great confidence on all things. And I think that's something I probably dislike the most now, is this kind of online bashing, competition, and people being just so sure of themselves on so many things.
I think that social media is a fantastic tool, and my disappointment with it sometimes is how people use it, not with the system. I used to be the other way around, but actually it is a tool, and if it's done correctly. What my frustration, I suppose, with it is that my own feed is filled with the same thing. And that's why I suppose I do the podcast, and I try to be different because I like to be different, bring a different spin on it. But the fast-paced world that we now live in Dubai, real estate was going to go that way. It's, I suppose, inevitable. What about being a woman in the industry for 13 years? What has changed? Was there more back then at the start? Was there more women brokers, or has that evolved that there's more of us now?
Do you know, I kind of struggle always to answer this question, because there's my experience and then there's the wider female experience. And I think they're quite different. I think my unique experience has been pretty good. I think my character was one that is quite suited to this environment. So I think I have quite a big personality and I'm quite strong. So to a certain extent, I've been fine. But it is not an industry with a lot of women in it. And it is not an industry, particularly a lot of women start, but not a lot of women stay.
Yeah.
I would say if we look at the intakes of most companies, they aim to be probably 50-50. But the reality is what happens is the fee earners tend to be non-female, and then the entire support landscape is female. So it's this real kind of upside down triangle, essentially, of females. I think it's a tough industry. And what I mean by that, there's a lot of male energy. It's highly competitive. It's incredibly long hours, all things that I think women are capable of. But then that doesn't allow, when you have children or you enter that second stage of your life, it's exactly the same requirements on your time. And so it's not an industry really built for longevity for women.
I think it's, for me, at my stage in my life, because I am single and I have no kids, and I come from a very toxic male industry with the equestrian world, and it was, even though it's made of 76% of that industry is women, but it is the most masculine industry ever. But I come from all that, so the long hours and all of these things for me now work at this stage of my life. So for you, maybe at the start, 22, that probably worked quite well for you. How did you adapt in then to be a girlfriend, a wife, and now a mum? How have you balanced?
I think you hit the nail on the head with the word adapt. I've had to adapt. The industry does not adapt. I'm in an amazing team. So I have a pretty phenomenal husband. And I think not a lot of women have husbands as say as great as mine, because there's lots of wonderful husbands out there. But my husband works for himself. He works from home. So he's able to see our children a lot throughout the day, which is really reassuring for me as a mum that there's someone always there. Yeah. He also works a lot of international hours. So he might be able to do school runs, school pickups, go swimming with them at 5, because he'll be online at 11 p.m. when I'm in bed. And also I think you have to be in a partnership where the other person, real estate at some points can be incredibly lucrative. You've got to be in a relationship where partners are safe and secure in what they're building, and they're happy to let you take a bit of spotlight. Mm-hmm. And he's kind of the yin to my yang. So I think you have to be in a team, and you have to want it. I always say I'm not competitive. I'm not sport competitive. I don't like paddle, or it's like my idea of hell. I'm not into anything that involves kind of. However, I would say I'm incredibly professionally competitive. So you have to want it. You have to want to go back. First baby, I went back after 16 weeks. Second baby, I went back after 3 weeks. Third baby, I came back after 9 weeks just now.
Okay.
So, and that was all my choice. Mm-hmm. I love it.
But it's so important to love it.
Yeah.
We're getting up and putting all of our capacity, all of us into it, because it takes all of that. Mm-hmm. And you have to enjoy it. And I never thought I would I've always had a drive and always had ambition, and I am super competitive at sports and everything. Like don't play paddle with me, because I'm not good and I'm really aggressive. Not with the people, but with the ball. Like I treat it like tennis. It's not a good mix, but you have to have this ingrained into you. But what other skills do you think that we as women bring to this industry that actually makes us better and more built for this job than men? And this is not here to never to bash men. I think men are brilliant at the job, but I think we have a lot more challenges and a lot more things that we have to face that they never will in the career.
I feel like real estate is actually, it's so easy. It's so formulaic. If you do A through Z, you can be a millionaire in this job, and I stand by that. Like, it is a really easy way to make money. It just involves a lot of repetition and a lot of following up and very little IQ, but what it does involve is a tremendous amount of EQ. Ultimately, if you do X, it will produce Y in this job. Everyone will tell you that. But the difference between why person A can succeed and person B can't with the same output is how able are you to read a room, read emotions, and cope with other people's emotions? And that's often where I think women are better, because I've often been in rooms where I'm like, I don't have a point to prove, so I'm going to let you blow steam, or I'm going to let you bash your boots. I mean, ultimately here, where it's a pretty, the listing process, the sales process is, it's very fluid. It's very up to the emotion of that person. There's no offers over or fixed pricing. All the contracts can be done here and now. You can... in secondary, you can have an exclusive listing, but get rid of that in 30 seconds, as long as it takes to go into the rest app. So it's always about, in this job, I think, keeping everyone calm and keeping everyone working towards the same goal. And where I've often succeeded over male colleagues from other companies is they've got really, you've wasted my time, or you have to accept this is the best. And no one likes to be told what to do, particularly people buying and selling homes. And so I think often being slightly quieter, slightly less assuming, and probably just reading the situation, being a little bit better, and not having an ego that I'm worried is going to get hurt, has often seen me outperform a lot of those colleagues.
I think it's having the ability to respond rather than react.
100%.
And come from the logical side of our brain. And I use this all the time. It's like, right, count to 10, let the emotion settle, and let the logical side have a bit of room to come to where you need to. But I think that only comes also the ability to do that from living a life and having to go through things in your past where you have to adapt and learn to manage things. But I think not all men, but I think they can be a bit hot-headed, and it's a very masculine energy throughout the whole industry. But I think that's what makes me be really driven in it more, because I want to beat them. Like, I want to be better. Mm-hmm. I'm in the off-plan team, and it is 99% of the team are men. And don't get me wrong, they are so good to me. They know when I need to be looked after. They know when they can make fun of me, and we're a little family. But equally, they know that I'm on their tails all the time, but I'm so quiet about it. Like they'll be more open about what's going on, and I'll just sit under the radar, and then boom, I've done something. They're like, "You didn't talk about it," but I think it's just being female, and holding my cards a little bit closer.
And also, it's funny, in my personal life, I have only girlfriends really, and I'm a real girl's girl, and I have a wonderful group of girlfriends. I've only ever worked with men, and I love it. When I've never really been tempted to start up on my own or go to a boutique agency, because I'm like, there's something about that male energy walking in. Is like, you call it the crack, but they are so funny. I mean, I think, there's not a day that I'm not like on the floor laughing with the absolute hilarity of what it's like to work in a male sales environment. It's such good fun, and it's very quick to simmer. There's no legacy. Well, I haven't experienced any kind of legacy grudges or legacy. No. I think that is a great thing that gives you a lot of freedom to work. Whereas I've got some friends who've maybe worked in creative industries that are more female, and there does seem to be a different office dynamic there.
I agree.
Maybe a little bit, actually probably, a little bit more emotional, a little tougher to metabolize some of the kind of friendships that are happening in that space. Whereas I think I always know where I stand at work.
This is it. I think in predominantly female environments, I mean, we can be hard work too. It can be a little, I don't want to use the word resentful, but I think sometimes working with all men, they can be quicker to be your cheerleader than sometimes being with lots of women.
There's nothing stacked against them, right? Genuinely, we know that, that men have an easier ride in life on the whole. And I think, therefore, there isn't a chip on the shoulder. No glass ceilings have to be broken. And then it leaves maybe more room for us as individuals to shine. We're in an all-female environment. Maybe you are more on the same landscape with your peers, and then that creates a different type of competition. And I think also because we do a job where there's no salary, you don't ever feel like no one's isn't pulling their weight or anyone. It's just, you're all in there with the same opportunity. It's like a total meritocracy, and I really enjoy that.
I think it puts us, we are on a level.
100%. There's no one on a different gig. And I think that makes, when I worked in more corporate environments and you know that someone's not pulling their weight, but you know that they're earning a really different amount to you, particularly when you're starting out, that's really tough. And what I love about this is even the most senior broker in the room to the most junior, they're pretty much all on the same gig. And if they're not, you know exactly what you need to do to get on their tier. Mm-hmm. It's very transparent.
Yeah. And it is all on you. The job is, I think one thing I've noticed is that coming over to it, having that bit of life experience, I knew that it wasn't going to be easy. I knew it wasn't just going to land in my lap. And I do think sometimes that I watch these younger kids coming across, flying over, and I think they don't have the emotional baseline that they need to go into the job, because it is hard. And I think they believe this is just going to happen overnight because they watched Selling Sunset or stuff like that sells this dream, when actually it is 7 days a week, long hours. I think I walked in last night at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, it's hard.
I was out the door yesterday morning at 5:10. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my goodness, I am dead. But you know what? I had the greatest day and I got so much done. It was like, right, okay, shower, bed, go again tomorrow. But I do think there's an illusion that it's an easy job and it's an easy gig. And I would love people to be walking through the doors being a bit more prepared, emotionally, for that performance end of it, that what it takes. Because I think if they had that built in, they would stick the career, because there's such a turnover through the whole industry.
I think what's really hard, the recruitment landscape is its own sales landscape within our industry. So constantly trying to recruit on the basis that X join, Y will still be here in X amount of months, and that's how they, are growing these companies. But I think, because I've done a lot of interviews with young people, and you almost need that absolute blind belief in yourself, or else you're not the type of person who's going to move to a sales-only job in the middle of, normally to a country you've never been in. And you don't want to kind of break their hearts before they join. But you're right. And I think that is one good thing about some of the social media that people do, is it does show the hours that are required. But I have interviewed people who were so committed, moved their whole families, and 2 months in, like, on what planet would I do this? Like, this is the worst job I've ever done. And it's often the people that I thought would be the best that end up not performing. And it's the people who I didn't think would be the best. But I think it does come down to your appetite for toughness. And also, a lot of the job is non-glamorous. I think I've rarely, and I sell really expensive homes, and rarely is it like selling Sunset. I mean, as in, so few of them are beautiful, but they're multi-million-dollar homes. And that's not because I just don't like their interiors. It's just that the value of the homes is quite expensive, and they are not that nice. And I think a lot of it is, are you going to pick a key up? Are you going to get the property cleaned? Are you going to knock a door in the heat and be told to go away and sometimes sworn at and all of these things to get the end result? It is often pretty unglamorous on the way.
Yeah, and I think that's, before I moved over, people were like, oh, you need to watch this. And I started into some of these properties. I was like, that's not real. Like, that is not going to be what it is. Like, for me, a lot of it's sitting on a laptop, being in the office, not getting out to see properties, because obviously mine don't exist. I'm selling sand and dreams, essentially. But it is having a good support system around you when you come into the country and into a new career and into something new is really important. And I think where we both work, there's a great ecosystem. There's great training, great support, and a great level of broker around us to learn from.
100%.
You know that you're in a great team. I'm in a great team. My manager's been here for 11 years and like a long, long time, and knows Dubai. And I think for me, coming in, after coming from being a chicken farmer and riding horses for my whole life into something completely different, having that support was really important for me. And whatever magic they weaved on that recruitment call for me got me in. But I think I knew that I was tough. Like, I knew that I had the resilience, because I think resilience is the key thing that we need. Resilience and patience are probably the two things that they need most in this job. And I have all of that, like, from all of the life stuff. But I had an armor. And I think as a female, I've built this armor coming from the equestrian industry. You needed it to survive, because it was a really shockingly bad industry to come from. Do you think that you came with an armor, or do you have an armor to survive this job? Or
I don't think I came with an armor. I had an incredible boss at one point, my first pure sales job, and it was real Wolf of Wall Street style, no chairs until you'd made X amount of calls. Okay. If you were late for a meeting, you were locked out and you had to stand by these glass doors, kind of publicly shamed, really sales tactics that you're probably not allowed to do anymore, or management tactics that you're not allowed to do anymore, probably for good reason. That gave me a tremendously thick skin, but I also think I was heavily loved throughout that process. And I think what I mean by that is it's that kind of coach or something, very hard, but knows also when to chill out. Really had, I think, a mobile phone thrown at my head once when I made a mistake. But then also, a pat on the back, probably on a bad day, not really a well done when I did well. But I think that old school sales environment gave me a lot of the tools that I have now. And I do maybe think sometimes when I look at some new people and I think, gosh, that's a bit soft. We were suit and tie in for 8:30 every single day. 50, 60, 70-hour weeks. And I do think now a lot of people want a different result from less work.
Yeah.
And now I probably don't have an armor maybe that's so noticeable. But I think a huge part, I think humor probably is making sure that I get on with my colleagues and I try and find the humor in things. And then dressing smart, looking professional. I think that is a bit of a lost art nowadays. A lot of people do the kind of trendy polo shirt and shoes for boys, and a lot of the girls probably take a little bit too much fashion advice from shows like Selling Sunset. But I think looking smart is hard. Looking smart, feeling smart is half the battle.
Yeah, it gives you that. A friend of mine back home, she lost her daddy, and she got her mum. Her armor was wearing red lipstick. And so, like, she said to her mum, when you're having a bad day, wear your red lipstick. Wear the thing that makes you feel strong and powerful. And it's that armor. So it's whatever whatever you feel is the thing that protects you. Humor is massive for me. Obviously, Irish love the crack. I had to explain what the word crack meant today to a client. And they were like, what is this that you speak of? And I was like, oh, just, good fun.
You got to be careful with that word.
I know. I was like, sorry. I was like, it's very Irish. But the wearing nice outfits and all of that, like for me, like I need to dig out photos of me from the farm.
You do.
Because when I tell you, this is day and night. And the fact that I wear makeup every day and make an effort, like I could have looked like I was being dragged through a hedge previously in my old life. It has been, I think that's what's given me the fire and the drive for it all as well, because it's completely new start for me. And moving away only became something that I wanted to do. I probably wanted to do it for a long time in life, but never had I couldn't get myself to where I needed to be. I needed to do lots of work on myself to be strong enough to go, and I've got there. But for you to do it at 22, like what was the driver there?
I think I'm the youngest of a big family, and I think, naturally, there's an element that you grow up in the shadows a little bit because all your siblings are doing things before you. But I think I've just always been one of those people, I think, who wanted to be the best, who wanted to perform. And I think Dubai as a landscape, actually, do you know what? I was a really naughty teenager and I dropped out of uni. So I got into Edinburgh University, which is one of the best universities in the UK. And I then kind of decided after I dropped out that I really needed to get my acting gear. And I think I was so embarrassed that I dropped out from what had been considered such an opportunity that so many people would have died for, to go to this great Russell Group university, did a really good course. I think I really felt that I had something to prove, that I wasn't naughty, that I was kind of a good kid. And so I think probably that driver, slightly running away from something, running away from being naughty, probably pretty determined to impress what was a new boyfriend at the time, maybe. He's now my husband, so it worked out.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I think just probably running away and having a point to prove. And then being a bit of a performer, being a natural salesperson, I think as a child, also by being the youngest, as you do grow up being a kind of character. But I was naughty pretty much my whole life. And
I
now I would say I'm very
your level of naughty is probably not what...
No, maybe not safe for podcast naughty, but really naughty.
I'll not do that.
But really naughty. And I think probably just wanting to prove everyone wrong. Yeah. Ultimately.
I think that's the thing, for me, it wasn't, if I'd have tried to do it years ago, it would have been absolutely trying to run away from things because I used alcohol and drugs and partying as a mask and trying to run away from things in life. But once I'd stopped all of that, I was facing everything within myself, which was not an easy journey to go on, but I did it, and that's what got me here. And I think for me, it was now I get to prove actually to myself. And I think that's what my journey's been here. It's proven that I am capable after being an absolute rascal. Like
rascal's such a great word.
I know. And it was bad. Like God love my poor parents. But it made me who I am now. But I do think a lot of people come here to prove something to themselves, but to run away as well. I think me and Josh talked about that in the last episode. But I think Dubai is such a great place that it gives you that opportunity to prove to everybody and to yourself what is actually possible. I feel like there's just no ceiling here. And I love the energy of here. And when I first came here last year, I just fell in love with the space. Do you think, have you dropped out of uni? Have you had longevity at everything else that you've went at since then? Or do you think it didn't suit you and what you've stepped into since 22 that has been your lane?
No, I haven't. Because I've changed companies a few times, and I would say I've changed spaces within the industry a few times. And I used to look at that and be quite harsh on myself and think that was because I wasn't able to stick to anything. But I think actually the way that I've tried to reframe that is I've always left because I felt I deserved more. And I think that's really important. And as women, I don't think we're very good for asking. And often because we don't ask, we then don't receive. And I think that the reason I've only ever changed companies, bar once, was because I wanted more. And so actually I really admire the fact that I have moved because I've always gone on to bigger and better things.
I think women are quicker to make a change actually than men. Like I see a lot of people that are in relationships or jobs or things and they feel stuck. And I see it all the time. Like I am such a man's girl, so the boys all kind of tell me stuff all my entire life. And they do tend to just settle. And I think as women, we are a little bit quicker at fighting our corner and knowing actually we are worth more. And that's how I'm here. I knew that I needed more.
And you know,
that faith.
Something that's interesting, this industry is only 24 years old here. Freehold properties came into play in 2002. So I've worked at the forefront of this industry for 58% of its entirety. Right. And I think sometimes it's important to recognize what it is that we bring to the table and not to stand for less. And there's a lot of companies at the moment who want you to be there on the journey with them. But you don't have to do that. There is, like the company that we work for is dominated in the space for probably 80% of the entire time that this industry's been going. And so actually, if you've got the energy and you partner with the right business, like this industry absolutely can reward you. And I think if a company promises you something and they can't fulfill that, I don't think we owe it to, everyone's young in this business. I think you owe it to yourself just to move on and find the best opportunity for you.
I think it's knowing yourself and knowing when
100%.
Every part of our life is a chapter that we have to go through and we can learn from it all. I've got much better in my years of wisdom at zooming out at every circumstance and going, right, okay, what is this teaching me? Might sit in the emotion of it a little bit, like when a deal falls through or something, because I'm human. But I am equally, once I've had a little bit of time, I'm good at zooming out. What would you say what has been your best professional success in the 13 years?
I worked for a company called Savills for a while.
Okay.
And what I did for them is I worked essentially as their conduit for kind of bringing Middle Eastern wealth back into London. And so I would travel the Gulf and liaise with families. And my patch was Kuwait, Northern Saudi and the UAE. And I spent 3 years learning to read, write and speak Arabic. And I was in a team of 2. And I think probably, the fact that I kind of pursued academics or this further education off my own back, having failed so spectacularly when I did it at Edinburgh. And then I think traveling to different parts of the region on my own, assimilating myself with the culture. This was at the time where when you'd get on a plane to Saudi, you would go in your mufti or your normal clothes and you'd put your abaya and your burqa on before you landed because you had to be fully covered in Saudi at the time. And I think just getting to work with some of the royal families in these countries and get to be invited back as guests of honor at things like weddings and other events and realize, wow, I've really kind of off my own back whilst representing this incredible brand, have had the opportunity to meet some of the biggest decision makers in the world and really kind of become part of their trusted circle. And I did that through putting myself out there in a really uncomfortable space, which is traveling alone, and learning the language and really trying everything I could. And I think that is probably one of the hardest and best things I've done.
There's so many layers to you that and I know all these little snippets of things and then I forget and I forgot about the Arabic and things, but it's so impressive. You've had bravery, like I would say since you decided to come here and you've just kept leading with that. But I'm sure you probably don't view it as bravery because I think we tend to not, especially when you feel like you owe yourself more. I think you feel like it's just maybe the next step, but what's your thoughts around the moves you made? Do you see them as brave?
I do. I lost a job last year that I wasn't expecting, and it was from a company I really loved. And I was 14 weeks pregnant at the time. And I remember being like genuinely like couldn't breathe, heartbroken over it. And in the months that followed, I did 15 interviews and started a new job, which is where we are now, in the same intake as you, when I was 20 weeks pregnant. And I remember thinking, wow, am I going to be able to tell this child that like within 6 weeks, I did 15 interviews, got myself a great new job and like walked into a room 20 weeks pregnant. I think that's probably felt like the bravest thing I've done because it was off the back of such a vulnerable time. It wasn't, you know, when I was younger, there's nothing really to lose, right? You know, if you do it, you fail, that's cool. I felt like I had what would be 3 kids watching and probably like a bit more of an audience watching, right? You know, I'd been let go from a really senior position. So also you feel like everyone in the industry kind of knows. And so I felt I really owed it to myself and future me not to wait until I'd had the baby, not to let anyone. So a lot of people would say, why would you work when you have 3 young children? Or why would you just take this time? And I was like, no, I have to prove this to me and to my children. This is what it means to be who I am, that I get up, that I recover from hard things. And so I think probably walking in to that day with you, that room.
Which I remember, and I thought, who is this experienced lady coming in here? I thought, oh, she's
this heavily pregnant woman.
Well, I thought you were management.
No, oh gosh, that's...
I was like, oh, she's official.
No, I queued for the lift that morning. No one had kind of told me that there's a time to go.
No one warned you about the lift?
And I had tears in my eyes because I'm like, oh my gosh. And I didn't have a car parking space. And I was like, I'm hot, I'm pregnant. And I was queuing for this lift with tears in my eyes. And I was like, on what planet is this? You know, my life. And I did a deal maybe a month later and gave birth, came back after 9 weeks. And I think I'm pretty proud of this past year. I think shows that I'm pretty resilient.
I think that's what I love about being in my 40s now, is that I can still prove to myself that I can dig in. Mm-hmm. But what a story. And I honestly, I remember the day that you walked in as if it was yesterday. And I honestly, hand on heart, thought, it's clearly management. And it's like, need to know who this lady is. Little did I know it was your first day.
They had to get me a cushion because I was so uncomfortable.
I mean, like, it's really uncomfortable in there. It's a beautiful space, but but yeah, I genuinely thought that you were management. But massive highs and lows in life, but the job is an emotional roller coaster. Do the highs and lows still impact you as much? 13 years in. What's ahead for me? Like, that's what I am good at managing it because I've done lots of work on myself, but I'm still human. I still feel things.
I think we talked about this actually offline, I'm a real justice warrior. Mm-hmm. And so when things don't go my way professionally and I deem them, my own internal compass says this is not right, and sometimes it still goes ahead, that's really frustrating. And that's the only thing that I struggle to metabolize is like when something happens and I'm like, that wasn't right. And that could be as simple as commission being divided, post a deal in a way that you don't deem to be fair. In your space, you could work with a client, you could bring them to a developer, you could do an EOI, and then they go direct, they cut you out using their wife's name, their someone's name. Or an agent says, listen, I'll give you half the commission back to your buyer, but you've introduced them to the project. And those things that you think don't sit right with how you would act. And there's this great quote that I love, which is, it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. How you respond is 100% up to you, whether it was your fault or not. And so I think having to dust yourself off from some of those huge losses, that's the hardest thing, and that will come forever, I'm afraid. I think one can, when you've got more of a cushion financially, sometimes if a client's giving you like the no feeling, sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't need, no, I'm going to pass you on to a colleague, or, hey, this isn't working. I've got firmer, if sometimes someone is being really rude, being like, hey, I'm going to end this call now. This is not the way that I would like, to be spoken to. And actually more often than not, they're like, oh gosh, sorry. No, sorry. But I think just standing up for yourself a bit more, but it is a really cutthroat industry. And there's some people whose entire lives, depend on whether or not they do that next deal, and they're willing to do some pretty shocking things to get things over the line. So unfortunately that does appear. Luckily, we work for a great company that doesn't tolerate it. And because of the size of the company, you're mostly able to just transact internally.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
But it will do, and it'll come when you least expect it.
Like I think in off-plan we see it a lot, where we'll introduce client to something and brokers from other companies, independent brokers are coming in and offering money, a kickback, and like it is absolutely annihilating the industry. It's not doing the industry any favours, and it's making our jobs a lot harder. I think highs and lows are probably the biggest thing that I've been watching through it and watching everybody else navigate it, and obviously trying to keep myself level through it. Don't think I've seen any industry like it for how it can, like one thing can completely change. But I think it's a bit of dopamine chasing with the job as well. Like, that little high of, you've got something bubbling and it's good things. It's an amazing industry. I think you just have to manage yourself. How you respond to everything is the key.
And I actually think it's a privilege to do this job. Like, when you get it right, we get to help people through arguably some of the biggest commercial decisions they ever make. You get to be the entirety at some points of the decision-making process, because you could be the buying agent and the selling agent. Or in your example, someone could deploy all their capital that they plan to invest here through one broker, which is really unusual and really exciting. And I think the commission landscape means we're probably almost unfairly remunerated. When you look at teachers and doctors and nurses in the UK and the tremendous work, selfless work that people do out there, and you don't need any academic standing to do this job. Literally, you can come, and that's what I love, is you can be. It's a wonderful story of a broker in this marketplace who was an administrator, and she did a lot of work for one company in a certain area, and she was doing a lot of work for her boss, and she decided to go and stand out and do that. Okay. She's now one of the top selling agents in that whole area. It's completely changed her life, and I love that there's no nationality barrier, there's no academic barrier to doing this job. And at the end of the day, we get paid extraordinarily well when it goes right, for sometimes doing not a lot. And I think it's a real privilege to do this job.
I think getting to be part of the little process. Mm-hmm. Like, I went to do viewings at the weekend, so I don't get to do that. Mm-hmm. Like, it's very rare that I have clients that get to actually go and look at real properties, but that's them buying their forever home. Mm. And I just love it. Yeah. I love that little bit of joy, and like your kids are running around and you're part of somebody's story. And I think that for me makes the job really meaningful. It's not about the numbers.
How come you joined off-plan instead of secondary?
So once I had been, the spell was weaved. They said, you're going to just go into sales. I was like, okay, great, no problem. Then I had another call with the recruiter just because I had questions, and I love questions. So I had some more questions, and she messaged me after and she said, actually, do you think you would be interested in doing off-plan? And I was like, yeah, sure. I had no idea. Mm-hmm. And I spoke to a friend actually a few weeks after, and I was like, why do you think that they have now said off-plan rather than secondary? And I, because I love to understand the workings of things. And he's like, well, obviously people have to buy, people have to invest into you through whatever process you're doing. But when you're doing off-plan, he's like, you're essentially selling nothing. I was like, I'm selling a vision. I'm selling a dream. I'm selling what it can be. And he was like, yeah. And where do you think your skill set is? And I was like, getting people to buy into me.
Great.
And he went, yeah. He's like, so he's like, that is probably why. And when I first joined, I spoke to somebody in our team. He's no longer in the team. Lovely man, also Irish. And when he said, oh, it's a bit slow and off-plan, would you not have thought of doing like secondary? And I was like, first day in the job, it's like having an internal panic going, oh, have I made a mistake? And I thought, okay, have a bit of a melt inside and then go, actually, no, hang on. What are my strengths here? And yeah, I love getting out to do little viewings because it's a treat. Do I want to do that all the time? Probably not, Clementine. Probably not, especially in 40 degrees heat. Like, fair play to people that are doing that daily, because that is the non-glamorous side.
Oh, the apartment people have the hardest job on planet Earth. Flats with no DWER, finding parking, not arguing with security, hopefully being
negotiating to
respectful,
get in.
But getting in, certain permits, like that's a tough gig.
Yeah, I went to view a apartment with clients. Apartment's empty. The agent said to me, the apartment's empty. There's the key, blah, blah, blah. I opened the door and there was a kid sitting on the sofa. I was like, stop. I'm in the wrong apartment.
And were you?
I was like, I opened the door, seen the kid, closed the door. I went,
not this one.
Wrong place. I wasn't at the wrong place. The owner had come back. And it's like, oh, I'm really sorry. I was we thought it was empty. But yeah, those selling agents, fair play to them. I couldn't do that. I love getting to deep dive into projects and stuff like that. But it's people for me. It's getting the people to buy into me, I buy into them, and then we go on the journey. And like I came from running my own business for 10 years and it was people, it was horses, but it was people. And that's where I knew then my strengths were. And I couldn't like when the conflict started and everything and people were kind of making changes and going to lettings and different things. And I was like,
stay the course
and be patient.
It's a job of compound interest, this. The longer you're in it, the better it gets. And don't ever change the course. That often is not the right thing to do.
So you've always stayed real estate based, but like have you went through management and different things? What's that look like?
Yeah, so after my internship ended, I did local sales, so Arabian ranches sales for 3 years. And at that time, it was incredible. But by the end, we were selling homes in negative equity. So the market was so tough that people were having to pay the banks just to get on a plane. These photos that you've seen of, car parks by the airport in Dubai filled, with luxury cars where people were just willing to abandon the debt and just get on a plane. It was a very, very tough time to be selling homes. And I got the opportunity then, London was booming, to then stay in the region. And that's when I went and learned Arabic and did that. And I did that for about 8 years. And then London went through a real battering, kind of Brexit and everything that happened then. And so the local market was really picking up again in 2020. Kind of post-COVID, there were some great deals to be had. The country had dealt brilliantly with COVID. And so that's when I transitioned back into doing local. And so I've been doing that now for the past 6 years. And half of that was, spent in management, which was, do you know what? Again, I've used the word privilege, but it was absolutely incredible to really kind of hone that pastoral side of the job, work with people who maybe like yourself are like fresh on a plane and are wondering, oh my gosh, have I made the right decision? People from different backgrounds and a lot of young people. And I think that was really special to get to be part of young people's journeys, to bring like humor into the office on tough days. And I worked for two great organizations in that time. And I think just to learn, and also to learn what goes into running a real estate business, to be in the meetings where all the mini details that as a broker you think you're being bugged about, Bayut rankings and property finder credits and timekeeping and car parking passes and ties in the summer or no ties in the summer.
Can you get us a car parking pass? Is that a thing?
Come find me after. But like all those seamlessly meaningless details, I love the detail about, business organization. And that's probably the biggest thing I miss about being broker is kind of not knowing necessarily the name of everyone yet and not necessarily knowing everyone's story, because that's my favorite thing.
I think you have a real nurturing energy, but like clearly a mum. And that just shines through. But getting to nurture brokers early in their journey, like that's rewarding. What is it like then as a mum? How are you as a mum?
Do you know, it is the best thing in the world. And that sounds, it's the best thing in the world if you're doing it with the right person. So I have a wonderful husband and absolutely love getting to parent alongside him. And then all my friends have had children at the same time. So we've kind of gone from living our early Dubai dream where, it's all brunches and partying and making money, losing money, breaking up, making up. And now we're all just raising our kids together. So it's just a total blessing. And Dubai's a wonderful place to have a young family. And they are just excellent. And I don't think I'm done. I think I've got one more in my locker. Let's see.
I love that.
But they're a gift.
And I think what's lovely for me with you is that people talk about Dubai being so transactional, and it is for sure, but there is a way to build your life here and put your roots here, start a family here. It happens. It's not that transactional. And I think that's what I love, is that you came and literally built your life here. Mm-hmm. And in that, you've also went mad with renovating houses. Like,
yeah.
So is that your guilty pleasure?
It's whatever's the opposite of a guilty pleasure. A public disdain. I don't know. No, it's the worst thing on earth. I hate it. It's honestly dreadful.
No, you don't.
But it's probably it's where it's probably where we've made the majority of our money, is by doing that. So, okay. And that probably being an agent helps, because you have early access to what are the best deals. You know, my ears prick in meetings sometimes. No, it is exhausting and incredibly frustrating. I must enjoy it because I continue to do it, but it's definitely not something that...
Some kind of weird torture.
Yeah, but it's not something, I think, type B fun, but it's not something that I like actively love. But it's been an excellent process for us. I really think we've set 5 records that are still yet to be beaten, 5 price per square foot records in the renovations we've done. I think being a mum really helps with renovating, because with every project I do, I think if I was a family, and it's mostly family homes that we do, what do I need in a family home? And then people have always overpaid for our properties because they're like, this was designed by someone who actually planned on living here, rather than someone who is just going to make everything look great. All of the properties we've done have been highly functioning. And that's definitely been the difference.
Do you think being a mum has also helped in the job, like as a broker? Or did it give any layers of, like, do you have mum guilt? Because I know that some of my best friends are mums, and like you with 3 kids and stuff, and it comes with challenges. It's not, being a mum is one of the hardest jobs.
I think behavior-wise, you go through a bit of an identity crisis, because I think I said, to you how like dressing is a really big part of how I feel confident for my day. And with each pregnancy, I've gained 20 kilos, which is like, 4 or 5 stone. So that's really hard, because, so when I joined this new job, instead of wearing something, like a really sharp suit or something where I know I feel confident and I know it says something, about who I am and what I'm here to do, when you just have to kind of wear tents for essentially 6 months, that can really knock the wind out of your sails. And again, I've gone from being people's boss to now I'm back to just being a broker. And I've gone from being someone who could be out with the lads to now being a mum of 3. And so I think what I found hard is, who am I? And how do I turn up? Is that joke still appropriate now I'm a mum? Am I in the club here? Oh gosh, I'm feeling frumpy, or I think that's hard. And then mum guilt, massively, because you never know if you're doing the right thing. And it's only when they're adults and they're going to be able to give me feedback and be like, you're an excellent mum, or do you know what, mum, you worked too hard. Like, I'm never going to know really how I did until they're older. So I think I just have to try and be the best that I can be. But I do think that a broker role is excellent in the sense that I don't have to be fixed in an office anymore. So I've spent a lot more time with my children over the last 9 months than I did before. And that's probably the silver lining to everything that happened last year, is that I've spent a huge amount of time with them. And that's been, you never regret a single day extra, a single moment extra that you spend with them. But I'm also very determined to be the type of mum that they can look back and be like, wow, my mum was really awesome. She did this and she did that.
Want them to be proud.
100%. And I think there's many ways to skin a cat, but I also think as women, we've got to remain authentic to who we are and what makes us tick, because you can become very invisible when you become a mum, because you just dedicate your whole life to children. And you don't need them to give you a lot back, because it is just, we've birthed them. They didn't ask to be born, right? So it's just our job to love and nurture them and give them wings, and hopefully give the confidence to flee the nest and then go and have their own big, tremendous, full lives. And so I think it's really important that I continue to do something that fills my cup. so that I'm able to give back to them.
You said something there about being authentic to you as a mum, but do you think that's how women in our industry stand out and survive the course? Because so many women do come in and don't stay. I don't think there's many female brokers in off-plan. It's probably the least. Mm-hmm. But do you think that's what is needed in the industry?
100%. I think you need to join a company, first of all, where that they're demonstrating that it's going to be a good workplace for you. You know, is there lots of management that aren't too involved in the company? The good thing about a bigger business, you know, there's owners, there's managers, you know, everyone's got a different level of skin in the game. And I think that creates a healthier environment. And I also think you really need to look after your mental health. So I think not drinking, I think this job almost requires you to be practically sober, into fitness, it's no surprise that some of the most top performing brokers are also ones who are the fittest, healthiest, and happiest in their home lives. I think if you can create a real platform for yourself at home to be healthy, to be calm, to be nourished, to be nurtured, then it gives you the freedom to then go into work from a good place. But you see, unfortunately, because of finances, a lot of young girls moving in with boyfriends young and early to keep the Dubai dream going. Yeah. And I think that can take its toll.
I think and everything moves at such a speed here that people move in together really quick and all of that. But yeah, I think you're right. It's if you've got that baseline of not drinking, looking after yourself, training wise and all of that, can only feed into making you the best. But I think for me, women in this industry need to have a voice because there's so many men, and we all have such amazing things to say. And I think just being confident enough to stand toe to toe with them. You know, I love it that it's a bit of a boys' club. And I suppose it's just coming from years of being surrounded with that energy. And I am obviously coming from the farm, such a tomboy. Like my dad raised me as a boy, really. This is I have thrown myself into my feminine in the last 9 months, thrown myself.
And that is our superpower, right? If you try and become too masculine because you think that's going to help you fit in, you're actually diluting your superpower, and that is your femininity, and your difference is your strength. And I think, lean into it. Girls are awesome. I think boys love having female energy around. Do you know what I mean? And I think just being comfortable in what it is that you have to offer. And yeah, I mean, I have 2 sons and a daughter, and I'm really conscious about, you know, how I raise them to make sure that they feel safe and secure in their identity. But I think our strength is exactly being who we are.
I agree. It is just owning every part of ourselves. But look, your kids, I have no doubt your kids are going to turn out awesome because you are amazing.
Thank you.
And we've only scratched the surface today. We could probably talk. I think we've demonstrated we could probably talk over the last 6-7 months. But it has been a real pleasure to have you on. And I will definitely have you back on, Clementine, for more talks around the market and all things Dubai. But thank you so much.
Thank you.